I mean, it feels like a physical game every game. Feels like it's been a physical season. But yes, I think, I feel like I've been on the ground a little bit more this series so far. But we just keep getting back up, so that's all you can really say.
Caitlin Clark is heading into Game 3 of the WNBA semifinals against the Las Vegas Aces, absolutely furious. The Indiana Fever didn't just lose Game 2, it was taken from them. It wasn't about the other team being better or having more talent. The real story was the referees handing Las Vegas the win. There were 41 fouls called in the game, with 16 in just one quarter. Players were hitting the floor on nearly every play. Still, the headlines praised Aja Wilson as the hero, while Lexie Hull fought through a painful back injury, leaving her uncertain for Game 3. She endured physical punishment no player should have to face. If this is what the WNBA calls playoff basketball, then the league has a serious credibility problem. If you're ready for Game 3, drop a "Let's Go Fever" in the comment.
Watch how the third quarter goes down. At least they called this one. Aja Wilson creams Lexie Hull like she did 5 times in Game 1. Peggy Hammock get 15 calls in a row and one goes another way and she starts screaming and crying. Aja Wilson doesn't like Lexie Hull. She's always pushing her, but that's an illegal screen, and then Lexie Hull gets called for a foul.
What makes this even more frustrating is that Indiana still managed to fight through all the chaos. Just look back at Game 1, that wasn't just a win, it was a statement. The Fever walked into Las Vegas, the home of the 2-time defending champs, and completely outplayed them with smart, disciplined basketball. Kelsey Mitchell lit it up with 34 points, proving she could shine on the biggest stage. Indiana controlled the pace, moved the ball well, and shut down the Aces' flashy style of play. Even Aja Wilson, celebrated that night as MVP, struggled badly, hitting only 6 of 22 shots. The Fever's defense smothered her, forcing mistakes and keeping her out of rhythm. And they did it while keeping fouls to a minimum, which is almost unheard of in Vegas. The result was a stunning 16-point blowout that shook the league. Indiana made it clear they weren't just along for the ride, they came to compete for real.
Aja Wilson's just a big bully. Look at this. Throws Lexie Hull on the ground. Everything she does is illegal. Look at this one. A moving screen, and then pushes Lexie Hull. Do you think they ever call a foul on Aja Wilson?
But even in that big win, people noticed something was off. The officiating already seemed to favor the Aces, with foul calls leaning heavily their way. Indiana's dominance on the scoreboard kept the issue from becoming the main focus, but the warning signs were there. Las Vegas had been embarrassed on their home floor, and with the league's favorite team taking that kind of hit, it was clear payback was on the horizon.
And Aja Wilson and the Las Vegas Aces lose Game 1 on their home court to the Indiana Fever, 89-73. The Indiana Fever were in control of this game from start to finish.
So when Game 2 arrived, the Aces weren't just out to win, they wanted to make a statement. The only question was how far they'd push to steal the momentum back. The answer was clear. It turned into one of the ugliest games you could imagine.
In the WNBA, you cannot blindside somebody and set a screen on them without enough time for letting the player being screened react. And then look at this. This one, their arms lock up, but you gotta let go at some point. Like, you can't bring the person closer to you and just stay locked in while the offensive player is trying to get the rebound. But we know Aja Wilson only receives fouls.
From the very start, Las Vegas threw basketball out the window and turned the game into a brawl. Forearms, shoulders, and hard collisions came on nearly every possession, and the referees let it pass under the excuse of playoff physicality. But when you rack up 41 fouls, with 16 in just one quarter, that's not intensity, that's pure chaos. In the middle of it all, the Fever struggled to find any rhythm.
Steph, why don't you think you were able to find any flow? And when that was the case, what are you trying to do to jumpstart things, maybe on the defense?
Well, it's hard for us to find flow when there's a foul call every 10 seconds. I mean, it just really is. And when they're at the free throw line, we can't get up and down the floor. And that's a challenge. They were much more aggressive and physical defensively. We didn't counter that with our off-ball actions or with our back cuts. So they took us out of our comfort zone. I mean, offense is about rhythm, it's about timing, it's about spacing. We allowed them to do that, and they kept us from doing it.
Every trip down the court got broken apart. A team built to play fast and smooth was forced into slow, messy half-court sets, the exact opposite of their style. While Indiana struggled with stop-and-go possessions, Las Vegas kept piling up points at the free throw line.
Yeah, Lexie, obviously you were a late add to the injury report today. Just how are you feeling this morning with your back, and what do you have to do to be able to play?
I mean, I'm feeling sore still, but I think just a lot of treatment, trying to get, our bodies as ready as we can be. Part of playoffs, I think, for everyone is it's the end of the season. Everyone's a little fatigued, everyone's a little sore. So just trying to go out there and do the best I can. A lot of treatment with our trainers. I'm really thankful for them to spend a lot of time with me today, a lot of time with me yesterday, getting me ready for tonight.
No player showed the fight more than Lexie Hull. She really shouldn't have even been on the floor, her back was already hurt from game 1, and most players would have sat out. But Hull suited up, stepped on the court, and battled. The Aces went right after her. Every cut, every defensive rotation, every box out came with extra contact and extra shoves. She hit the floor more times than anyone should in a single game, yet she never backed down. Instead, she stepped outside the arc and knocked down 5 3-pointers, tying the Fever's playoff record. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't smooth, it was pure defiance. After the game, she admitted she was sore and needed constant treatment, but she kept fighting through it. That's not just a soundbite. That's the very definition of grit.
This is what happened. They cut it to 8 and they get 4 fouls in a row. That was not a foul. That was not a foul. This is crazy. 4 consecutive fouls. So from 8, it goes to 13 really quick, and the rest was history. It looks like Howard got hit in the arm by 2 players. They don't call foul. It was a shot clock. But the rest of the game were just a whole bunch of fouls being called, people flying.
And yet, the headlines were all about A.J.A. Wilson. 25 points, 9 rebounds, 5 steals, 2 blocks. The box score looked like a star performance. But those numbers don't tell the real story. Wilson didn't dominate with pure skill. She muscled her way into the paint, created collisions, and got whistles Indiana never received on the other end. Fans watching weren't fooled. They saw just how one-sided this game really was.
I mean, it's how you look at it. It looks, honestly, by some of the fouls and the way it was going, it looks like we were almost too physical, but yet at the same time, I feel like we have to be able to get that on the other end. I think, sometimes when you just look at the game as a whole, when you look at the way that it works, sometimes you manipulate it to different ways and you have smaller matchups. So, I mean, I just don't think it's really possible all the time for some of those smaller matchups to really do such a clean job of that. But hey, I'm here to hoop, so none of my business.
Aaliyah Boston experienced that tilt up close. Her stat line, 13 rebounds and 10 points, looks solid on paper, but it doesn't show what she went through. Every rebound meant taking elbows and shoves without a whistle. Every shot attempt came with more body than ball. She was treated like a crash test dummy, despite being just a third-year player. And instead of folding, she kept battling. Her numbers look steady, but the truth is, it was survival mode from start to finish.
Lexie Hull kept her out of that space as much as she would have wanted to. She did end up with 19 points.
7-0. Aces run has been stopped. Sims.
Odyssey Sims deserves recognition too. She scored 18 points, often while dribbling through double teams, taking hits, and trying to salvage broken possessions. Every time she found a rhythm, the whistle stopped the play. Every time Indiana built momentum, a foul call reset everything. Sims' baskets weren't just points on the board, they were acts of defiance in a game that refused to let Indiana play their way.
First foul on Young. Sims over A'ja Wilson. She had to put some extra arc on that.
That's the real tragedy of Game 2. The Fever weren't beaten in a fair fight, they were dragged into a mud brawl they never asked for. Their toughness showed in Hull's shooting, Boston's rebounding, and Sims' drives, but every spark was smothered by whistles and Vegas's brute force. The Aces didn't expose Indiana's flaws. They leaned on chaos, piling up fouls while the referees looked the other way. And here's the question everyone should be asking: If Las Vegas needed both the officials and dirty play just to scrape out a win at home, what happens when the series shifts to Indiana? What happens when the Fever return to Gainbridge Fieldhouse with their fans fired up after watching Game 2 unravel like that? Because let's be honest, this wasn't proof of the Aces' greatness, it was proof of their desperation. The officiating wasn't the only factor, though. Strategy mattered too. The biggest shift came in how Las Vegas handled Lexie Mitchell. In Game 1, she lit them up for 34 points, scoring from everywhere, catch-and-shoot threes, hesitation drives, mid-range pull-ups, even fearless attacks at the rim. The Aces had no answer. But by Game 2, they made her the target of a suffocating game plan. She was smothered, held to just 13 points. It wasn't that she forgot how to score, Vegas simply cut off her air supply and dared anyone else to beat them.
Steph, on that note, with Lexie just having a little bit of a, they were able to contain her a little bit more. How did you feel like they were able to be successful in that regard?
I mean, the physicality won. She's like a little pinball, I know that the museum's right down the street, so sometimes I feel like she's getting pinged around everywhere.
The Aces threw multiple defenders at her all night. Even when Mitchell didn't have the ball, she was face-guarded like she was the only player on the floor. Every cut came with bumps and elbows. Screens set for her were blown up by hard hedges or outright collisions. By the time she managed to get free, the shot clock was nearly gone and the clean looks had disappeared. The difference wasn't about skill, it was sheer physical denial. On film, it might look like disciplined defense, but living through it meant bruises, frustration, and constant whistles that shattered any rhythm.
The physicality's out of control, that's for sure. I mean, you can bump and grab a wide receiver in the NFL for those first 5 yards, but you can do it in the W for the whole half court. You put two hands on somebody like that, it should be an automatic foul. They have the freedom of movement. Freedom of movement. There's no freedom. And I'm not saying that we're not fouling too. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's out of control.
What's crazy is that even Becky Hammon, Vegas's own coach, admitted afterward that she wasn't happy with how rough the game had gotten. Think about that. Her team benefited from the whistles, from the stop-and-go chaos that destroyed Indiana's flow, and yet even she was frustrated with the level of physicality. That says a lot, because it proves what everyone watching already knew: this outcome wasn't about pure strategy. It was shaped almost entirely by officiating that allowed, and at times rewarded, the Aces' hyper-physical style. Meanwhile, Aaliyah Boston kept grinding. She finished with another double-double, 10 points and 13 rebounds, but the box score doesn't show the beating she took. Every rebound meant a shove to the back or an arm across her body. Every post-up turned into a wrestling match. On top of that, Vegas got crafty. They spread the floor, pulled Boston away from the paint, and then let Aja Wilson or Jackie Young attack the gaps before help could arrive. It wasn't brilliance, it was exploitation. They knew Boston couldn't cover everything, so they forced her to choose. Her numbers look steady, but they don't reveal the sheer amount of ground she was forced to cover.
Now the starting point guard, and here's Hull, an early test. Great sign because her shooting has been off.
Yes.
Mitchell. Short. Hull with another offensive rebound, turn, shoot, scores. 2 of their last 3. Hull again, yes. Oh,
you found it.
And then there was Lexie Hull. Vegas may have taken Mitchell out of the game, but they couldn't take Hull out. She was questionable to even play after her back injury in Game 1, yet she not only suited up, she tied the franchise playoff record with 5 threes. Each one was a dagger, a statement that Indiana refused to fold no matter how brutal things got. Hull didn't just survive out there, she shifted momentum, forcing Vegas to respect her shooting even as she winced every time she hit the floor. That's the kind of toughness you can't fake.
Fever run still. Lexie Hull has scored the last 6 points for Indiana with a couple of threes. Mitchell, good look. And she got it. Lexie Mitchell in that first half had 9 points, but was just 1 of 5 from 3-point range. It was Lexie Hull doing the damage from 3, and now she's doing a Lexie Mitchell imitation of the night. Sims gets the roll.
So yes, the Aces made their adjustments. They trapped Mitchell, forced Indiana into secondary options, and leaned on the whistle to bail them out. But now the chessboard flips. The next 2 games aren't in Vegas, they're in Indianapolis, where 17,000 fans have been waiting to unleash the kind of energy that can flip a series. Here's the truth about Gainbridge Fieldhouse: it's not just a court, it's an amplifier. Every run feels bigger. Every whistle gets magnified. Every defensive stop turns into a wave of noise that rattles even the most seasoned teams. We've already seen opponents collapse late because the Fever crowd refused to back down. There are no quiet moments in Indy. And while Las Vegas leaned on its home crowd to squeak out Game 2, Indiana now steps into an atmosphere where every call, every shove, every missed foul will be met with a roar too loud for the officials to ignore.
If I could just ask you to look forward to this series going to your home court in Indianapolis, how much is that really going to make a difference in this series, and how much does it mean to you guys to have that home court advantage?
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. Our fans, they show up and they show out, and so for us just, using that, our own energy, but also using the energy in the crowd, I think it's going to be really great for us.
That makes all the difference. Officiating bias thrives in silence. In Vegas, when a shove on Boston went ignored, the game just moved on. In Indy, 17,000 fans erupting will force the referees to acknowledge it. When Hull gets knocked down cutting to the basket, the crowd will demand accountability. Home court isn't just about soft rims, it's about collective pressure on every decision. For the Fever, that noise becomes fuel. Hull has already shown, taped up and battling pain, that she won't quit. Boston's work in the trenches only grows stronger with fans pouring energy into her. And Mitchell, who just had her worst playoff outing in years, will now step into an arena chanting her name before she even takes a shot. You can feel her frustration from Game 2 boiling over, and at Gainbridge, that frustration is primed to explode into aggression and scoring fireworks. History leans their way, too. In a best of 5, the team that wins Game 1 usually holds the advantage. Indiana didn't just take Game 1, they humiliated Vegas on their own floor. That kind of confidence doesn't disappear because of one whistle-heavy loss. If anything, it hardens their resolve. Add in a packed home arena, and suddenly the pressure shifts. It's no longer on the Fever to prove they belong. It's on the Aces to prove their dominance wasn't built on referee whistles.
Yeah, we're excited. I know the last time it was the first playoff game in a really long time, so to be able to have 2 more for our fans that have been there with us all season, I'm really excited for that, and we definitely do feed off of their energy, so we're really looking forward to it.
Let's not forget how dangerous the Fever have already been at home this season. They've erased double-digit deficits, stunned opponents with second-half runs, and leaned on a fan base that doesn't just cheer, they sustain. Now, those same fans are furious about what went down in Game 2, ready to turn Gainbridge into a playoff cauldron that feels more like a tidal wave than a crowd. Even Becky Hammon admitted, "Our experience there has not been great this season," which is about as close as a coach gets to confessing Gainbridge is a problem. That's why these next 2 games are more than just a continuation of the series. They're a referendum. Can the Fever take the fouls, the bruises, the no-calls, and turn them into fuel? Can they flip the injustice of Game 2 into energy that powers a knockout punch in Indy? Every sign points to yes. Hull already set the tone by refusing to quit. Boston's composure under fire remains unshakable. Mitchell, silenced once, is too proud and too talented not to answer back. Add in Clark's leadership from the sidelines, pushing her teammates with every possession, and you've got the makings of a hostile takeover at home. So while Vegas may have celebrated their adjustments in Game 2, the reality is simple. Indiana didn't break, they absorbed, they learned, and now they return to their house with momentum waiting to be reclaimed. Game 3 at Gainbridge isn't just another stop. It's the turning point. The Fever aren't coming home to survive. They're coming home to put the Aces on the ropes, with the crowd as their weapon and revenge as their fuel.